If you walk into any prominent Shaivite temple today or observe the austere ascetics meditating deep in the Himalayas, you will see a visual that has shocked and misunderstood outsiders for centuries. You will see devotees and depictions of Lord Shiva himself, covered head to toe in stark pale ash collected from the cremation grounds. For generations, the standard surface-level explanation has been that this is simply a dark, religious ritual, a macabre reminder of human mortality, a symbol of detachment or an embrace of death. But what if I told you that the ash covering Lord Shiva is not just a philosophical metaphor? What if this specific imagery was mathematically engineered by ancient Vedic scholars to represent one of the most terrifying, undeniable laws of modern astrophysics? By the end of this video, you're going to understand why the ash of Lord Shiva is not just religious iconography. It is a flawless, mathematically perfect depiction of the second law of thermodynamics. And once you see the exact physics behind it, you will never look at a Shaivite temple the same way again. To understand this matrix-breaking reality, we have to temporarily leave the realm of theology and step directly into hardcore particle physics. In the 19th century, scientists established the laws of thermodynamics, the absolute rules that govern how energy moves and transforms in our universe. The most profound, and frankly the most terrifying of these rules, is the second law of thermodynamics, which introduces the concept of entropy. In simple terms, entropy is the measure of disorder or chaos in a closed system. The second law states that the total entropy of the universe can never decrease. It can only increase over time. This means that the entire cosmos is engaged in a relentless, one-way march toward total decay. Everything that has a physical structure will eventually break down. A perfectly constructed building will eventually crumble into dust. A blazing, hyperdense star will eventually burn through its nuclear fuel and collapse. Even the complex biological cells in your own body are constantly fighting and ultimately losing the battle against entropy. Every physical thing in existence is slowly decaying toward a state of maximum disorder, a state that astrophysicists call thermodynamic equilibrium, or the heat death of the universe. When a physical structure reaches this state, it can no longer do any work. It can no longer change. It has completely exhausted its kinetic energy. Fire is the ultimate, most aggressive accelerator of this process. Fire takes complex, highly organized matter, like wood, fabric, or human biology, and rapidly oxidizes it, forcefully stripping away its chemical bonds, releasing its energy as heat and light, and leaving behind only the absolute baseline chemical residue. That residue is ash, and this is exactly where the ancient scriptures and modern physics violently collide. Look at the strict chemistry of ash, which the Vedic tradition calls Bhasma or Vibhuti. Ash is matter that has been completely 100% oxidized. It has already been put through the ultimate destructive force. Because of this, ash represents a state of thermodynamic absolute. It has reached its absolute limit of physical decay. You cannot burn ash again. You cannot oxidize it further. If you leave a pile of ash exposed to the elements for 10,000 years, it will not rot, it will not rust, and it will not decompose. It is immune to time because it has already survived the end of time. It is the only physical substance on Earth that has fundamentally beaten the law of entropy because it has already reached the finish line. Now take that undeniable physical reality and look at how the ancient Agamas and Puranas describe Lord Shiva. In the Shaivite tradition, Shiva is not just the creator or a passive observer. He is Mahakala, the Lord of Time, and he is Kalani Rudra, the fiercely destructive fire of time that eventually consumes the entire cosmos. The ancient texts describe a cosmic event called Pralaya, the Great Dissolution. At the end of a cosmic cycle, when the universe has exhausted its lifespan, The physical manifestation of reality is not just magically vanished, it is actively consumed by the fire of Rudra. The mountains, the oceans, the planets, and the stars are completely oxidized. When Lord Shiva is depicted smearing Bhasma across his entire body, he is not just wearing the dirt of a graveyard, he is physically draping himself in the heat death of the universe. The ash represents Prakriti, the physical, material world, after it has been completely reduced to its final thermodynamic state. Shiva, representing the eternal, unmanifested consciousness, remains completely unaffected by the fire. He wears the decayed, oxidized remnants of the universe on his skin to prove a staggering scientific and spiritual point. When all physical matter has reached maximum entropy and collapsed into absolute nothingness, the pure consciousness that observes the universe is the only thing that survives. The linguistic genius of the ancient Sanskrit scholars makes this even more profound. The word Bhasma is derived from two roots. Ba, which means to burn, to roast, or to destroy, and Sma, which comes from Smarana, meaning to remember. Etymologically, Bhasma translates to that which remains to be remembered after everything has been destroyed. It is the physical memory of a universe that used to exist. Thousands of years before Western scientists were tracking the decay of subatomic particles or calculating the death of stars, ancient Indian sages had perfectly codified the end state of physical matter and inextricably linked it to the supreme God. This exact thermodynamic principle is actively applied to the human body in the Vedic tradition. When a human being dies, the tradition does not preserve the body in a sealed box to artificially delay the inevitable decay. Instead, it places the body directly onto the pyre, intentionally accelerating the law of entropy. By applying the fire, the complex biological machine that housed the ego, the identity, and the desires is instantly reduced to Bhasma. It is returned to the thermodynamic baseline. When a living devotee or a Shaivite ascetic takes that very same ash and applies it to their forehead as the tripundra, the three horizontal lines, they are performing a highly calculated psychological and biological override. They are taking the ultimate scientific end state of the physical world and placing it directly over the Ajna chakra, the neurological center of the brain responsible for perception and ego. It is a constant, tactile reminder to the human nervous system that the body you're walking around in is temporary, that your physical form is currently subject to the relentless decay of entropy, and that identifying solely with your physical mass is a mathematical error. You are actively commanding your brain to identify not with the matter that will eventually become ash, but with the eternal consciousness, the Shiva, that wears it. This is why the image of Shiva covered in ash is so arresting and why it has survived completely intact for millennia. It is not an image of death. It is an image of ultimate scientific mastery. It is the visual proof of a civilization that looked deep into the terrifying mechanics of the cosmos, understood that every single star and planet is destined for total physical collapse. And instead of fearing it, they turned it into the ultimate symbol of spiritual liberation. So the next time you see Bhasma applied in a temple, or you look at a painting of Mahakala covered in the pale dust of the cremation ground, do not dismiss it as primitive mythology. You are looking at a hyper-advanced, mathematically accurate depiction of the second law of thermodynamics. You are looking at the exact physical boundary where the decay of the universe finally stops, and where the eternal reality of Lord Shiva begins. If this deep dive completely shattered the way you look at ancient Indian traditions, let me know down in the comments. The digital algorithm actively suppresses this matrix-breaking history, and your direct support is the only way we can push this elite scientific truth to the rest of the world. Make absolutely sure you are permanently subscribed with the notification bell activated, because in the next documentary we are going to dive into the physics of the Damaru and how the ancient texts map the exact mechanics of mass and the Higgs field. I will securely see you there.